Hello, and welcome to... Hello, and welcome to episode number 30 of the TEW 2020 Challenge Run. This is going to be the first Raw for the month of July 2020, as we begin the 4-week build to Raw's next pay-per-view, Great Balls of Fire. Without any further ado, let's jump straight into the show.
I won't beg, break, I'm going away. Every moment's one more chance to stand up or get in the...
Ayo dog, I heard you liked the Monday Night Messiah. Well, fear not, because you're going to be getting a lot of him on this show this week. Also, you probably noticed it right away. I have changed the picture pack for now. I still do think that the Samp pack that I was using before is the best picture pack for like a modern day mod, because the pictures are just like, they're clear and like they just look clean. But I thought I'd change it up for a little bit, so I'm using the Galaxy pack, which Emily in Reawakened linked me to. I think she's part of the people who make it. I can't remember the exact people, but yeah, I'll leave a link to it in the description if you also fancy using it. Just thought I would change it up a bit for Challenge Run, because having 30 episodes of the same picture pack, when it's not obviously the one I've made myself in 2016, can get a bit boring. Anyway, I thought I'd get that out of the way, because we have a lot of things to discuss with this first opening segment here. The Church of Rollins come out to open Raw. They say it was a good night for the greater good at Vengeance, when he defeated Aleister Black, and of course, the heir, Austin Theory, defeated Rey Mysterio. Seth starts to put over Theory some more, and like in the background you see Buddy Murphy behind him just shaking his head. Seth confronts Murphy. He's like, "Have you got a problem here?" And Murphy actually speaks. He's like, "Well, I feel like my whole role, I was your first disciple, and I feel like my whole role in this whole church is understated, because all your attention is now on Austin Theory, but in reality, if Murphy was in those roles, he'd be more impressive than Theory is." And Theory gets angry. He's like, "Oh, what are you saying?" And then Akam has to get in the middle of them before they can start fighting. And Seth says there's no room for infighting in the church. And they'll face off right now with the Money in the Bank briefcase on the line, because of course that is the token of who the heir is to the Church of Rollins. And the loser, obviously the winner gets the Money in the Bank briefcase, and the loser is banished from the greater good. The match gets to 69. Murphy defeats Austin Theory in 14:22 by pinfall over Murphy's Law. Murphy wins the Money in the Bank briefcase. So here's the tea, sis. When I originally did this, I had the whole plan, the whole story was planned with Austin Theory. I had the whole thing planned out, but then like after I started booking it, they took him off TV with Seth. And I was like, okay, that seems a bit odd. And I was just like, okay, I thought nothing of it. I thought like maybe he just doesn't want to wrestle because of the pandemic, etc, etc, etc. But then he came back on NXT in real life last week. And I was made aware of things about him that I was not previously aware of. Allegedly, quote unquote. Don't want to bring it up on my website, but... Well, not on my website, my this channel here, but... I did fire Velveteen Dream from NXT, if you can put them two and two together. So... I was not aware such things existed against Austin Theory. But now I am, and I really, really, really no longer want to push him in that role or use him at all in the series. So, I have the replacement lined up for him. Murphy's going to take the briefcase. I'll have to find a new person to complete the goal to become the youngest world champion. This definitely was not a plan. As you can see, this is all very rushed, because he literally just beat Rey Mysterio on the pay-per-view. Just once I saw everything, I don't feel comfortable using him at all, let alone making him WWE Champion. So Murphy's beating him here. He's taking the briefcase off him, and then after the match we cement this. Seth Rollins gives him a stomp onto the briefcase, hands the briefcase to Murphy, gives him a big hug, and banishes Austin Theory from the church. I do apologise if any of you were massive Austin Theory fans and were looking forward to his title reign. Blame the actual person for doing what he did, and then then I'll forgive him. And what better way to follow that up on with a lighter note than with this hot angle? Charlie Caruso, with her 24/7 title around her waist, is interviewing the Peak of Physique. And they talk about how their ripped bodies and how they flex. They try and flirt with Charlie with their ripped bodies. And then Path of the Dragon, Carrillo and Tozawa come up to them. And they say that it takes more than two pairs of great abs to be a real tag team. And him and Tozawa have really bonded over how they need to try and improve their tag team game, while you two just sit here trying to work out and improve your muscles and flex your abs on people. And then they sort of all leave. Camera pans on Charlie, just a quick segment between two teams to get him on the show. And then R-Truth rolls her up and wins the title. So, yeah. Seth Rollins is backstage. The Church are gassing Murphy up after his big win. And then Seth snaps them back into reality. He says that he had to banish Theory as there are more people who wish to join the greater good. And Murphy needs to keep his head on straight and make sure that he and this new member can coexist, because him and Theory, of course, just had the collision in the opening segment, and we don't need any more of that. We need everybody on the same page. And Murphy nods his head and he leaves, clearly focused. So yeah, obviously you have replaced Theory. I actually prefer this angle, because like the person that I added, you'll see him later on, I think really fits in the group better than Theory did anyway. And I actually like the angle. There was a match on the pay-per-view that I was going to build to, that I was stumped to build for, but now I have the perfect excuse with Murphy kicking off and getting Theory kicked out, and now it's, hey, you've got a team with this other guy to sort of... Anyway, enough about Theory. We've addressed that situation. Moving on to the Queen. Her first match on Monday Night Raw since before WrestleMania. She defeats Indy Hartwell with a natural selection. She gets a 70, Indy gets a 26, match gets a 65. After the match, Charlotte Flair grabs a microphone. She says that Shayna is only given permission to think that she's the best woman on Raw because the Queen has been busy making another brand relevant. But she's back home now, and at Great Balls of Fire, Shayna will learn what they all learn in the end. They all bow down, woo, etc. So, yeah, it would have basically been confirmed in the 24 hours since the pay-per-view that it would be Charlotte against Shayna for the Raw Women's title at Great Balls of Fire. So yeah, that's one big match to add to the card already. Asuka approaches a sad Kairi Sane backstage, and then she tells her to cheer up, but it's not her fault that they lost the championships last night. And then Kairi turns her back on Asuka, like, very sad, like she doesn't want to speak to her friend because she's still thinking about her mistakes. And then Nia walks up and she mocks Kairi. She's like, hey, you lost the title because you're shit, blah, 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 blah. And then Asuka wants to fight Nia Jax on behalf of her friend. Ends, as any Nia Jax match does, her on her back, looking up at the lights in 6:25, or 27, sorry, with a spin kick. Asuka carried her amazing form, balanced out Nia Jax's extremely poor form. Seth Rollins comes back out. He says that the greater good is finally on the right track. With the weak eliminated from the pack, it's time to focus on the future of Monday Night Raw. But instead of talking about it, every Messiah has a priest to preach their word. And then out comes the newest member from Vengeance, Damian Priest. And he cements his pledge to the Messiah before his debut match on Monday Night Raw, where he defeats Jake Atlas with the Reckoning in 5 minutes. He gets a 46, Atlas gets a 29. So yeah, the stable is Seth Rollins, Damian Priest, Akam, Murphy, Ruby Riott, and apparently someone else that we'll see later on tonight. Aleister Black pops on the Titantron after the match. He says that Seth proved what a coward he is when he had Priest jump on him at Vengeance. But that's not for Black. That's not for Black to stop, because this greater good will end up internally crumbling upon itself. And it starts when his newly elected Priest feels the wrath of Aleister Black. So Black, of course, has issues with Seth Rollins and Damian Priest now, but he says, actually, you know, you're getting way in over your head, big man Seth. This whole thing you're doing here is going to end up crumbling in on itself, because just the way you're running it is very culty, very dictatory. So I'm going to let that happen and watch from afar and laugh as it does, but that will start when the priest you've brought in to preach your word gets his head kicked off when he comes in into contact with Aleister Black. Finally, these good people. Zelina is backstage with Andrade, Angel Garza, and Santos Escobar. They're all downtrodden after their loss at Vengeance. Oh, Andrade's loss at Vengeance. He's the only one who wrestled. Zelina snaps and says, "No, this isn't over. Andrade will become WWE Champion. We just need to not make the same mistakes again." Garza steps in and says, "Andrade lost, or maybe it should be my turn to get a championship match." Then Zelina slaps him. She says, "If he never came out of Vengeance, Andrade would be the WWE Champion right now. He just needs to focus on his rematch with Isaiah Swerve Scott and leave the business to the real businessmen and woman." So Garza sort of getting a bit cheeky. He's like, "Well, Andrade lost, so maybe it's my turn to get a title shot on Vega." Of course, says no, the goal is still to get it on Andrade. And you've got a match with Isaiah Scott because he attacked you last week and you thought he was an easy win and he disagreed. Rematch from Vengeance for the Raw Tag Team Championships. It is Brendan Vink and Shane Thorne of Aussie Might taking on the Street Profits. Match goes 10 minutes and 40 seconds, and it looks like Tez is doing his Ultimate Warrior rope shake, getting all fired up as he's going to hit the frog splash. He has Shane Thorne down on the mat, but then when he goes up to the top rope to hit the splash, he's shoved off by Johnny Gargano. And Johnny Gargano shoves him off. He just stares on the apron at Ford, who he's just pushed off. Angelo Dawkins tries to attack him, but Buddy Murphy lays him out with a big knee. And, of course, this distracts Ford, and he gets laid out by the lunch cutter and pinned by Brendan Vink. And Aussie might make defense number 1 of their Raw Tag Team Championships. Candice LeRae then comes out from the back, and her and Johnny Gargano attack the Street Profits. Gargano lays both men out with a big super kick, and then Buddy Murphy enters the ring. He holds out the Bible with Seth Rollins' face on it, and he pledges alongside Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae to the Church of Rollins. I really, really like the aesthetic of this group now. Because, like I said, I thought Austin Theory, he was okay in there, but he didn't really fit with the whole thing. But I think the aesthetic of Seth, Murphy, Gargano, Candice, Ruby, Damian Priest, and then AOP, this is one of my favourite factions I've ever made. And there was a silver lining to not having Theory in here anymore, is that I looked at my roster, I was like, okay, who can replace Theory in this group? And then I saw Johnny Gargano sat in NXT, and I was like, yeah, he would be perfect for this. And Candice too. For Candice, again, obviously, because Johnny was replacing Theory, so sort of just going to adjust the plans there. Candice, until SummerSlam, will sort of just be existing, because, again, I had the plans for SummerSlam penciled in, and Ruby was doing all the solo stuff for the women, and there was never going to be another woman added, but I only added Candice because A, she fit, and B, Johnny's here. So she will just sort of be existing while the plans I did have until SummerSlam play out. But then after SummerSlam, she'll be Candice LeRae on Raw. But these two men, or well, not two men, two people, man and woman, husband and wife, the two newest disciples of the Monday Night Messiah. Speaking of whom, like I said, I heard you like Seth Rollins. Seth and Ruby are watching the tag team match backstage. Seth turns to Ruby and he says that everyone else has done their bit for the greater good. As in, Priest won, Murphy won, Gargano screwed the Street Profits and pledged. Well, so what's stopping her? And she looks confused, and Seth says he can't even remember the last time Ruby won a match, but she's letting Liv Morgan walk around scot-free. You really going to take that, Ruby? Seth walks away, and we linger on a shot of Ruby Riott sort of thinking about her recent record here on Raw. Speaking of Liv Morgan getting wins, she defeats Natalya, Oblivion, 46 for Liv, 47 for Natty. Not really much else to it. Kevin Owens comes to the ring. He puts over Bronson Reed's effort of vengeance, and he says that he was just that little bit better. He knows he was quality, but Owens just beat him out in the end. But he hasn't got a championship to celebrate with because, of course, Ozzy might took a sledgehammer to the US title. That's why he's here tonight, to reveal, here on the Kevin Owens show, the brand new United States Championship. And of course he pulls the cloth over to reveal what is in real life the new United States title. Just, yeah. An excuse to sort of bring that one in. Kev throws a new title over his shoulder and says that this title, with its prestigious look, will have the prestige to back it up. And what better way to increase that prestige than to offer an open challenge right now? Which is answered. You may now throw him up, because here comes Oney Lorcan. He's coming to kick ass and win the US title here on Monday Night Raw. He puts up a hell of an effort, but he does not get the job done. Kevin Owens defeats Oney Lorcan in a very open match with a stunner. Makes defense number 3 of the US title. Owens 75, Lorcan 45. Again, Oney's whole thing, like, I know he's not on the Kevin Owens level, and I normally say I wouldn't really have him be open this long, but he is the one guy, like his whole gimmick, I've built him up as. He just gets up with everything. He's tough SOB, and he doesn't stay down. Like, he'll have a face pouring with blood, and he'll keep fighting up. So his whole shtick is that he's gonna stick around and fight till the death, but he doesn't get the job done here tonight. And Oney's very frustrated about that. He punches the mat and kicks the ropes. He almost had Owens. Owens tries to help Oney up, but Oney pushes him away. And then Owens offers a handshake, and he pauses before accepting it and leaving the ring angrily. I had to obviously throw the handshake in there because I didn't want him to come across as a heel. But he's just a very frustrated man. Had the opportunity of a lifetime here tonight and couldn't get it done. 54. Angel Garza defeats Isaiah Swerve Scott clean with the wing clipper pinfall this week instead of a Rage DQ finish. Garza 57, 50 for Swerve. After the match, though, here comes the WWE Champion. He comes onto the ramp and he's applauding Garza on his victory. He says he was always very impressed with Garza, and now that Andrade is out of the way, he thinks that Garza should be next in line to face him. And then Zelina comes out with Andrade and Escobar, who's not on screen here. She says that she sees what Drew is doing, like she sees he's trying to drive a wedge between Garza and Andrade by pitting them against each other. And the fact is, Andrade didn't get a fair shake at Vengeance. So what this is the situation, Drew. This is the ultimatum that Zelina was putting out. Garza will be happy to face you at Great Balls of Fire, as long as it is him and Andrade in a triple threat match. And Drew laughed. He says if it takes Claymoring both their heads off to end this little charade Zelina was created here, then so be it. So that's the WWE Championship match confirmed for the next pay-per-view. Drew McIntyre will defend against both Andrade and Angel Garza in a triple threat match. Why was this a... I put it here thinking it was going to be a good main event. It's got no reason to even exist. But Seth Rollins defeats Rey Mysterio in 17:39 with a curb stomp. They get a 66 because there was no storyline. Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar promo to end the show. Heyman says that, believe it or not, Brock Lesnar is not mad at Bobby Lashley. In fact, Brock Lesnar is happy that Bobby Lashley did what he did at Money in the Bank. Because for years, Brock Lesnar has had to listen to Bobby Lashley beg and plead for a match against Brock Lesnar. To no avail. Now Brock Lesnar is always open to a challenge, and all Mr. Lashley had to do was ask. But he did what he did, and he left Brock Lesnar no other choice. Now, since Lashley doesn't have the balls to be here tonight, he better show he has his own pair of great balls of fire, because at that very event, Bobby Lashley, you are officially being challenged to a match. The match you begged for, against Brock Lesnar. They leave and Brock jogs on the stage to win the show, which gets us a shit rating because the main event was, 80. How did... Was it just the million Seth Rollins promos I put in here? So that ends a very, very newsworthy episode of Monday Night Raw. Do let me know what you thought about the show in the comments below, and of course how I've addressed the elephant in the room here. Hopefully you're not too mad at me. And I'll see you next time for SmackDown. See you then.